Okay, we're live. Well, Rune, welcome to the podcast, Secure Insights with NDK Cyber.
Thank you so much for having me.
Not at all, not at all. Now, I've got some notes here. I can do you an introduction, or I think I'll probably butcher that. So if we've got yourself in the room,
Yeah,
are you okay to give us a brief overview of your background and what on earth we're doing here?
yeah, of course. CEO and co-founder of Moxso. We do cybersecurity training. I come from a background like try to untraditional, I would say, in the cybersecurity space. So I have a master of economics. Used to be a management consultant. Um, so kind of ventured into this space as a rookie, I would say, knowing nothing about it at all. That was also kind of the motivation why I actually started because, like, why don't I know more about this space that has such a huge impact all around the globe, right? Um, so, so yeah, then I just jumped into it and love it. It's really an amazing space, and I just love that it's ever changing, right? That all the time new things happen and yeah, it's never standing still.
No, of course, and we'll get into some of I guess, the accolades and the milestones you've hit so far in this space in a very, very
Yeah,
short space of time. I'm sure that many out there are envious of. But Moxo focuses on this whole human risk element, right?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think at least also from my background, right? I wanted to kind of start to understand cybersecurity. So that kind of became my main driver as well when we started the company. How can we actually make training in a way where people actually start getting interested in the space and not just seeing cybersecurity training as something they very much dislike. I think that's actually one of the main things we wanted to change when we started out, because it's something that has such a big impact on everybody's life. So like you should be interested in it. I totally get why people don't like the training they they they're doing. But it should be different, right? When you have a company that actually pays you to train in something that you can utilize in your private life as well. I think it should be different, and that's kind of became my main driver, like to get people actually involved and seeing cybersecurity for the very interesting industry it is.
I got you. I got you. And so focusing on this human behavior element then. So like this is not a new topic necessarily, but why is human behavior still the biggest cybersecurity vulnerability, despite all of the advancements in technology and AI and everything else coming through in today's day and age?
Yeah, I think like one thing is like technology is evolving a lot, right? People are not. I think that's also why it's the easiest way for hackers to get into companies, right? Because like IT system computers very rarely fuck up, right? Whereas where you have people, they like we are busy, like we end up in situations where we don't think very clearly when we are rushed, and there's just so many errors that can happen. And think we have also been kind of accustomed to having IT actually solving problems for us. And we have also a culture of, trial and error. And I think cybersecurity is one of the only places where trial and error is actually not applicable, right?
Mm.
And so we kind of need to change that mindset. So I think that's why the human side is still have such a big impact. And it's really hard to change human behavior as well. So that's the reason I guess hackers go through that side. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. It kind of
Yeah,
feels like, you can have all the technology in the world, but if the weakest link is your humans in there, then that's a huge problem that needs addressing. And it's kind of, you touched on it there, it's that changing behavior piece. So you're kind of stepping away from like a technical science, I suppose, and into more of a social science of how you do this,
yeah,
which obviously is a ridiculously complex problem to tackle. But with
yeah,
all that in mind, so how is like you mentioned it earlier around, some training is like sort of just not engaged with or just seen as a compliance tick box type thing, I think you mentioned.
yeah.
What's been your experience with traditional cybersecurity training methods so far?
I think like the worst thing in my opinion is like these 3 hours once a year kind of training exercises
Yeah, yeah,
where you're like, well, I'll just put my employees in a room and we'll just do 3 hours of training. First of all, after 5 minutes, they will start looking at their phone. They will just start clicking through the exercises. And I mean, it's really hard to stay focused on a subject that you're not really interested in for more than 5 minutes, even 10 minutes. I mean, and then you do 3 hours of training. So basically, that's where I came from. I was like, the waste of time we have doing that, the 3 hours where employees are not effective and the training is not working, right? Because like how much of that training do you remember after a month? And then you actually have 11 months where you're like very exposed as an individual. So that's why we changed it up to like micro learnings. We don't want to train more than 5 minutes at a time. We want to train more often because you need to be reminded that this is a threat. So I mean that way of doing the old way, the compliance way, I think it's just a waste of resources basically. Doesn't change risk and it takes up quite a bit of time for the employees as well.
Mm, understood. And just like a follow-up question on that, like the world of AI, in the last 12, 24 months has really changed what we do. Has that kind of seriously impacted like phishing campaigns, for example?
I think, yeah, like 100% now. Like for example, we sit in Denmark, right? So we have been kind of protected by the Danish language. I think, of course, in the UK and the US, it's a little bit different. But when you look at like Europe more as a whole, like the language barrier has completely changed, right? So there's no language barriers for sending out phishing emails. So that's one thing. The other thing is like how much you can tailor the actual emails because you can actually automate the individualization in the phishing emails that you send out. I think so going from where where you could actually see like this is a mass generated email or like if it was a language that really wasn't supported by Google Translate, then you could see if it was in a really bad written email to now in a situation where like the email is perfectly written, like no spelling errors, and then you have tailored as well, where you can grab information from LinkedIn, whatever, to actually make these emails super relevant to each individual. And I think, yeah, that's just a game changer for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty sort of terrifying the type of stuff that like even in my inbox it turns up and it looks so legit, whether it's from like a DocuSign thing or it's impersonating my boss or someone, it's we're a long way from the Prince of Nigeria needing help to get out of prison, I think,
Yeah. Uh, the Bitcoin scam where Elon Musk wanted to give you a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That was a classic one.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that actually. Yeah, I
Yeah,
uh I, I
it's
need to get on
pending.
his case.
Yeah. And I think also like even going even further, right? AI has also like the way we can do deep fakes now, like voice imitation. I think we're just gonna see a whole new, or we are already seeing a whole new threat landscape, right? So like for example, finance departments have been used, like call somebody if you're in doubt. Like you can so easily fake that now, imitate the voice and so all the processes we have had in place beforehand as well is also like getting outdated with AI. I think that's like some of the tasks that we need to solve fairly
Mm.
quickly, that we don't really have a solution for right now.
And with all this going on, it seems, and I'm basing this on a conversation I had a couple of years ago with a security awareness trainer at a corporate organization. I won't name them for obvious reasons, but they were saying that it's not just sort of people that aren't maybe IT literate that are falling for these kind of scams. It's right the way up the chain. It's finance. It's even cybersecurity and IT people as well. From
Yeah.
your experience dealing with this world, like who's at risk from all of these these phishing campaigns, these impersonation campaigns?
It's all of us. I mean, I think like the best example I can give you is me falling for a phishing email I had written myself. So, so like we are actually also we are of course simulating attacks on ourselves as well, right? And it's just like the context just hit perfectly. And when you actually hit that training and you clicked, and I was like, that just didn't happen, right? And it's just
Oh
such
wow.
a an example of like it can hit everybody. Like even a mail I wrote myself, getting into my inbox, and it's just the context, super busy, something I just worked with. Like so, it was an Airbnb fake email, right?
Mm.
Somebody breached my account. I was like, I just ordered an Airbnb. I was like, oh, this cannot happen, right? And then just a fast click, and not it doesn't really take it more than that, right? And
Wow.
I think in my experience, like. nobody can feel like 100% secure, and that's why you need that constant reminder that like this is an actual threat. Like have that pain, I guess, if you get to click on an email
Mm.
to actually see, okay, like when I clicked on that, it's really like I go through everything now, right? Very, very thoroughly, and like getting that like feeling of like I really fucked up here is something that helps you be more attentive, like in your everyday life. So that's kind of how I look at it. But I mean, I don't see anyone that's not at risk, to be honest. And also, like you can look at this a corporate setting, but just as much in a private setting, right? And you know, we always say like there's these obvious games, of course, and like not a lot of people fall for that. But like as soon as you see something that's super, super specific or just the right context for you, then it's very easy to jump on it, I would say.
And I guess if the bad actors are pinging out tens of thousands of these emails, they only need a few hits to make it worthwhile for them, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's what you can change with AI as well, right? Because you can make it so much more relevant with when you're scraping LinkedIn, and so that was kind of the old way, right? We just send 10,000 of the same email, and then we will hit 0.5% or something like that. Now you can just it's like sending out newsletter, right? You can optimize, and the percentage just will just increase over time.
Got you. It's pretty terrifying stuff, to be honest. So thanks for enlightening us on some of those figures.
Yeah,
No, I wanted,
I think deepfakes for me is actually some of the most terrifying stuff now, right? Like we could have I could have been an avatar in this video call, right, as well, and like you wouldn't have noticed. And it's just it's quite insane. Also, how fast you can see somebody actually, like how little material they actually need to recreate your voice to like 100%. And yeah, that's terrifying, I think, and that's some of the threats that we will see even more in the future.
yeah, I've got to admit, even just on sort of social media and such, recently there's been a huge rise of obvious that they're quite obviously deep fakes and things like that. Yeah, the people that are not alive anymore in weird and wonderful places, but it's so real, and unless you sort of had context of like why it's not real, you wouldn't think twice, which is pretty bonkers.
Yeah, and
I
imagine
wanted
this
to,
has only been around 1 to 2 years, right?
yeah,
And like, how's it gonna look like in 5 years? Uh, that's pretty terrifying.
yeah. Let's cross that bridge when we come to it.
One
Uh,
step at a time.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask you about Moxo's approach because, like I said earlier, not necessarily a new field, new approach. There are organizations that are playing in that phishing and security awareness space. Well, what's kind of the Moxo approach that has led to you standing out, to scaling, to getting funding? What's been the secret sauce in there?
I would say efficiency. So I think, like as I mentioned earlier on, like seeing how inefficient training were, like how can we actually make that efficient? So I think like a lot of companies are really focusing on making the content engaging, for example.
Okay.
That's not our main focus. Our main focus is actually making it relevant and individualized and efficient. So like one thing we do is if like we're tracking risk at all times, right? So if we see somebody who poses a greater risk to the company, we start increasing the amount of training for this individual, and vice versa. If you actually seem like you have you know your stuff, right? Then we decrease the amount of training a little bit for that individual. So all the time trying to optimize to make sure that you get just the right amount of content, and exactly the content you need as well. Because I think as an individual, for me at least, if I'm put into a box and I'm doing the same exercise as everyone else in the company, I would start like this is not the right training for me. Or if I've done free like one password training last year and I'm doing the same password training again, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna do this. And I think if you get like just 3 or 4 training exercises where you already know the stuff, like you will feel this is not something I should spend my time on, right? And so I think the relevance of the training exercises and then the individualization is where we really stand out, and where I think that why people are buying into our product. Because I think you also have to realize the time we take away from employees to train, less time they could spend on improving the business, right? So it's not like it has no cost that we spend like that we train. So it's I think it's about being very mindful of people's time and making sure that when they train, they actually train in something that's super relevant for them. Um, yeah, so yeah, basically, making it relevant and efficient is where I see our work stand out the most.
Nice. Okay, cool. And so how does like what's the baseline test then? Is it like a phishing email? Then if you click that, then it sort of scales up. Have you got like an example of how that would sort of, turn the heat up or turn the heat down on the
Yeah, I
awareness
mean
stuff?
that's typically the first kind of signal that we get, right? How do we respond to the first phishing email that we get? So that would be one thing. So how should we train that? Should we make the phishing email harder? Should we turn up the volume of phishing emails? So that's one thing, right? But when you go into training exercises, we do questions after training exercise to kind of assess you. And the way we do them is also AI based. So we actually instead of just doing the same questions for everyone, we make them intelligent, and making sure that we actually know more about you than we would if we just had, five standard questions. So let's say we understand after, the first two questions, we actually know that you understand the content you just went through. Then we'll start assessing you in different things to kind of understand you more. So that's also back to efficiency, right? We don't want to waste time. We don't want to test you in something or assess you in something that you already know. We want to upskill the people. We want to move them to a different level.
Got you. And is there an element of, like you were saying earlier, if I'm answering a bunch of questions I already know the answers to, I guess I become like sort of more disengaged as a user. I'm just sort of clicking through. I'm not mindful. Whereas if I'm
Yeah.
being a bit more challenged, it's like, oh, I'm locking into this a bit more.
I mean, what I see at least from a lot of other vendors, right? You have those questions after a video, and
Mm.
usually what they do is it's so easy to understand that you don't have to watch the video to answer the questions. So that's one of the things I've been very attentive to. Like, if I'm asked questions that, like, so for example, like, you received a phishing email, like, what do you want to do with it? I want to click it. I want to send it to a colleague. I want to report it to my IT. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
like, like, hopefully 100% of people could actually answer this without watching a video. And and it's just, very disengaging for people to train in something where you're like, why did I watch this video if the only thing I needed to answer was this? Like, so making the context in a learning situation where you can, where we're upskilling, we're getting better every time we do an exercise. I think that's super important.
yeah. I'm smiling as crikey, about 6 months ago, a friend of mine, he went through the same sort of thing, and he said exactly that. There was a sort of I think it was like 30 minutes, 45 minutes of a training classroom style stuff, and then the questions at the end weren't not they weren't relevant to it, but you didn't need to listen to that at all. It was kind of just like a common sense thing, um, which is
Yeah, I
in
think
today's day
it's
and
so
age
it's
baffling, really.
very very typical that you have an exercise and you just click through it as fast as possible, scroll in video, like whatever, and then you have 10 questions at the end and you just guess because yeah, you like 90% of the questions you will get right because it either like it's multiple choice where it just makes really good sense what to actually choose.
Mm,
So just like if you're a little bit logical, you can answer the questions and then it becomes very much a compliance exercise, right? Because
mm.
we want to know if you're exposed. We don't want to know if you can reason logic. Um, and yeah, that's kind of what I've seen at least.
I got you. I got you. And all this is powered from Moxo's is a risk intelligence engine, right? So there's
Yeah.
an AI powered risk intelligence engine. Talk us through how that works.
Yeah. Oh, it could take a bit of time, but I'll try to
We've
to
got
make it.
time.
I'll try to make it short. I think for us, like we look at risk, right? So that's kind of the first layer of the engine. So what is the different risk within the for each individual, you could say. So first you can look at macro level, right? So how's the macro trends? So let's say when Russia invaded Ukraine, the macro trends changed quite a lot, right? Because suddenly Russian hackers had more. it was easier for them just to do whatever they wanted, right? So that changed the whole picture. Then you can look at an industry layer. So it's just certain industries that are more exposed than other industries. Then you go into the organization as well, look at different departments, right? So our IT department is super risky if they make an error, where we can have our finance department a little bit less risky, HR department a little bit less risky, and so on and so on. And then you can actually start creating like a profile for each individual, and then you use that profile to for each individual's performance. So that will actually say like, if I have an individual in IT, if they make a mistake, it's super risky for the company. So we need to escalate that right away, right? And we have diminishing return on training. So the more we train, or the faster we train, the less we get out of it. But if we are in a situation where IT actually has made an error where we think there is a risk within that department, then we need to escalate it, even though it's quite costly, right? From a time perspective.